You know, it's funny. Revolutionary moments, the ones that really change everything, they almost never announce themselves. They usually start on the most ordinary, unremarkable days. You just wake up, go about your business, with absolutely no idea the world is about to pivot.
A lot of us remember hearing Steve Jobs say this, right? He's on stage holding up the very first iPhone. And you know what? He was right. It totally changed everything. But that massive shift, it started as just another Tuesday morning keynote. One single moment on an ordinary day that literally redrew the map for the future.
Well, today we're going to dive into one of those stories. It's an ancient one for sure, but the idea at its core is every bit as revolutionary. See, this one isn't about a new gadget. It's about a calling that came to a forgotten man in, well, the middle of nowhere.
So our story kicks off with a man named Moses. And to say his life had become unremarkable, well, that's kind of the understatement of this century.
Think about this. He's not a prince anymore. He's not some big-shot leader. He is 80 years old, and his job is tending his father-in-law's sheep. He's an exile, a foreigner, who's been living in total obscurity for decades. By any normal standard, his time to make a mark on the world was long, long gone. I mean, just look at the timeline here. 40 years living as a prince in the most powerful empire on earth. And then it's followed by 40 years of complete silence in the desert. He'd spend half his life in this quiet, repetitive, day-in, day-out routine before we get to this one single, pivotal day. But this super mundane day was about to take a hard left turn into an extraordinary encounter, and it all started with something he saw on the side of a mountain.
So he sees a bush on fire. Now, in a hot, dry desert, that's not necessarily all that weird. But here's the thing that made him stop and look. The bush wasn't burning up. It just kept burning. This wasn't some magical tree. It was a common, thorny, everyday shrub. The ordinary was made extraordinary, not because of what the bush was, but because of the presence within it. And then, from this burning, unconsumed bush, a voice speaks. And the message is absolutely staggering. He's being told to go back to the empire he ran away from, confront the most powerful man on the planet, and lead an entire nation of slaves to freedom. No big deal, right?
So how did he react? I mean, what do you do with a command like that? Well, it wasn't with some heroic, yes, I'll do it. It was with something profoundly human. Deep, crippling, personal doubt.
This is his immediate response. Not how, not when, but who am I? And that question just echoes through the ages, doesn't it? Because we've all asked it. When we face something that feels way too big for us, our first thought is, who am I to do this?
And right behind that question, his focus just snaps inward. He's immediately thinking about his past, all his failures, his flaws, his weaknesses, those 40 years of being a nobody. He's looking at his own resume, and all he can see is that he is completely and totally unqualified.
In fact, he actually tries to get out of this thing 5 separate times. That's right, 5 distinct arguments for why he is the absolute wrong person for the job, and every single one of them is rooted in his own feelings of being not good enough.
But the answer he gets, it's not what you'd expect at all. It doesn't even try to argue with him about how he sees himself. It just completely changes the subject.
And right here, this is the turning point of the entire story. Moses asks, who am I? And the answer doesn't list his strengths or deny his weaknesses. The answer is simply, I will be with you. See, the question was all about his identity. The answer was all about presence.
So, and this is the crucial part, the strategy here wasn't a pep talk. It wasn't about convincing Moses that, hey, you're actually awesome, you can do this. The solution was to get him to stop looking at himself altogether and to look instead at who was with him.
Success was never, ever going to be about Moses' eloquence or his strength or his leadership skills. The power to pull off this impossible task was located entirely in the presence that was promised to go with him.
So what does this shift in focus really mean for us? Well, it's a principle that's just as relevant today for anyone facing something that feels way too big.
And this is why this all matters. The story is basically telling us that when we feel like we're not enough, the answer isn't to somehow try and muster up more belief in ourselves. The real solution, the true antidote, is to become aware of the presence that's there supporting us. And you know, this idea, it echoes all throughout history. Centuries later, another leader, Jesus, gives his followers an equally impossible task. Basically, go change the entire world.
And guess what? He gives them the exact same promise. Not, you guys are capable enough, but I am with you.
So the ultimate takeaway here is this huge shift in perspective. It's all about moving from that old self-focused question, am I good enough for this, to a brand new outward-focused question, who is with me in this?
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. In the face of your own impossible tasks, your own callings in the wilderness, what if the biggest factor for success isn't about your own adequacy at all, but about your awareness of the presence that goes with you? What might change if you started asking that question instead?